use of money, any use of capital, any use of investment, how do you use digital tools to make it convenient for them? A simple smartphone.
A small conventional present now doesn't hold us back in terms of really reaching out to achieve our expectations on the digital front.
With the vision and the actions that we have, I'm 100% sure that we can get to where we want to be.
Some financial markets have been transformed by the entry of neobanks, or digital-first banks that deliver services online. Sri Lanka's Union Bank says its new banking app, UBGo, will see it make a giant leap in that direction. Hello, you're with Echelon, and in the studio with us today are a team from Union Bank to talk about this transformation. They are Nirvana Chaudhary, Managing Director of CG Corp Global, Union Bank's main shareholder. He's also Deputy Chairman on the Union Bank board. Also here with us is Dilshan Rodrigo, CEO of Union Bank. And here with us also is Manisha Fernando, Head of Digital Banking at Union Bank. Let me start with you, Nirvana. The CG Group has had a fairly long association with Sri Lanka. You've kind of invested in diverse businesses, and now you're a main shareholder of an important commercial bank. What's CG Group's vision for Union Bank?
Well, Shumendra, firstly, thank you so much for having myself and my team at your studio. It's really a good pleasure to be here. Our group, CG Corp Global's vision's always been, how do we take a lot of our core competencies, a lot of our conventional businesses, and how do we bring them up to speed with digital intervention and by a very well-crafted process of digitization, not only within our company, but the products and services that we do. As we came into Sri Lanka, and it's been 25 years, we've been in Sri Lanka.
Oh, as long as 25 years?
Right. I remember I was, just looks like yesterday, I was 18, almost 18, and 2000, we came here with my father to attend one of my closest friends' wedding, Johan. While we were talking about acquiring or investing in the Taj properties, we knew about the bombs going off in the airport at that time. But I think right from the very time we came into Sri Lanka, we had that comfort level. We just really, really got a positive vibe from this country. The people were so nice. We saw that the basic fundamental dynamics of the economy it's there. Obviously, things beyond your control is affecting it. And we always had that confidence. So for us, it was only a matter of time. When we entered with 2 hotels, now we have over a dozen hotels, 3 partnerships in hotels. We launched a joint venture with John Keels by launching now our electrical mobility vehicles. And for us, bank and financial services is one of our group's core competencies. For us, Union Bank was just, I would say, a feather in our cap, where a team filled with phenomenal people, systems, the base was so strong. We were very glad that our group, every time Sri Lanka is going through challenges, is always there. Whether it's in the 2000s, early 2000s, or even during the last 3-4 years during the economic challenges, our group's always here because of our core belief in the economy. For us, Union Bank is a perfect institution which has got its fundamental, the people, everything right, for us to take our vision for creating or having that shift of a conventional brick and mortar banking, but also adding on a very tech savvy convenience through digital banking for Union Bank.
Dilshan, that's an excellent segue for me to bring you into the conversation. As CEO, I mean, you're relatively new in this position at Union Bank. You've always been an advocate for transformation, for digital transformation. What's the scale or scope of the opportunity that you now confront?
Thank you once again, Shamindra. It's always been a pleasure to be associated with you in interviews of this nature. So I joined Union Bank in January 2024. I felt that Union Bank had the bare fundamentals in place. So it was a case of actually taking it forward from where it was. At the beginning, there were maybe 5 elements in the strategy that underpinned the transformation effort. So digital obviously is the final frontier, but to do that you need to prepare the groundwork. So in order to do that, I think the first key focus was the sales, driving that sales focus. We really put in a lot of effort in terms of, incentivizing staff, making it very clear what segments we operate in, what businesses we are dealing with. So we are really a boutique bank. We deal with the mass affluent community for retail and with the cream of the SME sector. So as a result of that, there is very clear focus, bigger facilities, small volumes, but every branch works with the best names in the marketplace that they operate in. So that was something that really, we drove and we are still driving in terms of driving the business. Last year, I'm very proud to say that we were the fastest growing bank, both on the loans and deposits. In relative terms, to be able to grow like that was really a big confidence to everyone.
Credit growth was roughly what in?
We grew our loan book by 30% and we grew our deposit book by 20%. So amongst all the banks, we came out tops in terms of that.
You were talking about 5 priorities, Dilshan. Sales is one, if you can quickly cover the others.
So second was operations. So we inherited a bank where the hub and spoke model was in place, right? So you basically have the branches as the sales centers, the showrooms if you like, and you have the centers as the processing and the back office operations. But there were lots of efficiencies that we needed to improve. So we worked on that area. So a lot of effort went into structures, systems, processes to be able to ensure that, the efficiency levels of all of these improve. So we started, if you take the branches, right, we delineated the roles between the branch manager as a salesman and the assistant manager as the back office and the operations person. Okay. Right. Change the reporting lines so that people can really focus, specialize in those areas and work it through. So that has helped us in terms of really radically improving our service level agreements and our turnaround times. So we've seen almost 50% reduction in our turnaround times for products, in terms of the delivery turnaround. When you apply for a housing loan or a personal loan or credit card, you'll see the difference in terms of the speed in which we respond.
I'm trying to get to digital transformation. You said 5 steps there, right? You covered 2. Tell us about the next 3 steps.
So the third was actually about people. Really working people are very, very important part of this whole thing. So again, looking at the processes like the incentives, the levels at which we engage with them, delineating their roles across front office and the back office and putting more people in the front line. And then the fourth is, of course, I inherited a portfolio which 20% were non-performing. So putting a lot of effort, putting a structure there in terms of secured, unsecured, and the corporate banking, and putting some very aggressive targets behind it, and rearranging that whole process to really see huge improvements. Sure. And then, of course, the fifth is, of course, digital first. Sure. So digital first is something that basically encompasses the entire organization. Today, on the conventional business, we have about 1% market share. But on digital, there is no reason why we can't really command 15-20%. So that's the vision on which we started off. So there's been a lot of traction in that area. Today signals a very important milestone for us. We are about to launch our online KYC, where non-face-to-face onboarding would become possible. Effectively, in a matter of minutes now, you don't have to visit a branch anymore. You are able to become a customer of the bank and work with us.
Just to work with this jargon, KYC stands for Know Your Customer. You know, because you're in the financial industry, you need to know who you're dealing with. And often that has meant you need to sit down with the person in front of you. So this is a big step we're talking about here, Manisha. Digital KYC. What was the journey? How did this come about?
So we started our digital journey way back in 2015. Thank you, Shamindra, first of all, of course, for having us here. And it was actually a pleasure to see CG Corp coming last year and investing in the bank with their vision to digitalize the entire banking services that Union Bank provided. Then, of course, with Dilshan coming on board, he has already had experience in a much larger bank in terms of digital transformation. So last year, we put in a plan somewhere in May, where we wanted to revamp and bring Union Bank to the topmost mind of every single customer when it comes to digital banking. So we staged it in 3 phases. The first stage completed in August 2024, where we launched quite a lot of new processes. We revamped the entire UI and UX, that is the user interface and the user experience. And then, as Dilshan said, this year, today marks the launch of, VKYC. So that has been a very exciting journey with quite a lot of challenges as well. But we are very glad because now we are in par with all the major banks in Sri Lanka in terms of functionalities, in terms of features. And our digital strategy, foremost, is centered on the customer experience. What we have done is we have looked at the entire financial industry, we have scoped it. We know what is going to happen in the next 5 years. We have aligned ourselves with the national roadmap for digitalization. We have looked at what our customers want. And in that sense, we have built in a lot of features. There are 7 key strategic pillars in our digital journey when it comes to the features of the product itself. Foremost is customer security, data security of the customers. Then we have payments and transaction capability. We have some unique new features some of the other banks don't have in banking apps but have it in wallets, like you can request for money, make peer-to-peer payments and things like that. And with VKYC, which is video know your customer, a customer doesn't virtually have to come to the branch anymore. They can just sit at the comfort of their homes and within a few minutes open an account with Union Bank.
Manisha, you said eKYC, right?
Yes. So it's actually interchangeable in Sri Lanka, eKYC and VKYC.
What does V stand for?
V stands for Video Know Your Customer. So
Okay,
that's one
right.
part of the journey.
Nirvana, let me bring you in here, right? Some of the businesses the CG group are in, particularly hospitality and banking are very capital intensive businesses, right? You're talking about digitally transforming the group in general, but these businesses. How does financial services and the Sri Lankan investment kind of align to that effort? Because by being digitally transformed, you can make sure your capital allocation is capital is very efficiently used, I suppose.
So, us as a group in general, we have a vision that by 2027, our entire group should be an AI-ready company.
Okay.
AI-ready group. Sure. Now, we all are day and night hearing about the capabilities and functionalities. AI is already giving our entire lives and our business lives a massive leapfrog exponential growth that, wow, these are the possibilities, But in terms of the process efficiencies, in terms of really focusing on each company's customer journey that we have, how do we use the data points to making sure that we curate bespoke products and services to the end customers? That philosophy is going to be shared with all our companies globally. In Sri Lanka, hospitality, again, just to give you an example, today customers coming in from the reservation system being online to knowing that when a customer comes into the hotel, he's immediately verified. He knows that, okay, Mr. Shomendra was here on 18th of August, 2024. As soon as he comes, he likes a sea-facing room. And as soon as he enters the room, his favorite Netflix show must be on and his favorite cappuccino must be on the table. So all these are data points today possible which get extracted by the behavior of a consumer that the technology platforms use, which when tomorrow is used to your advantage to making sure that customer journey is there, then you differentiate yourself from the competition. So that's what our aim is. For UB, Union Bank, UB Go, we are very, very clear. We want UB Go to be the #1 digital bank for the youth. Today, you have 1/3 of your population who are the Gen Zs and the millennials. Tomorrow, that's our target market. Union Bank, obviously, we are so honored and delighted that we have some of the best companies in Sri Lanka working with us. But UBGo, apart from providing our existing customers with that service, we want to be able to provide innovative products which are not here even in Sri Lanka. And that's where best practices from our group's other territories come in from. For example, countries like Nepal and Sri Lanka are very, very remittance dependent. And today we have external companies focusing on money remittance, mainly brick and mortar, where we have to go through 4 or 5 layers of money and commissions being shed. What stops us from getting customer of UBGo in say Middle East, directly his account connected to a bank account where his salary is deposited and his beneficiary in matter of second gets the money deposited in the wallet or the banking account here. These are things that we've already doing it in Nepal. In Nepal, we're the biggest bank. The group is the largest shareholder of Nabil Bank, which is the most profitable bank. It's considered to be the most innovative bank, and more importantly, it's a bank which is the first in many different segments. Like, we were talking about SDGs and meeting SDGs well before the entire SDG roadmap for the entire country was done. Now we're talking about ESG. The bank is 40 years old. In 40 years, we had, say, 1.5 million customers. It took us 4 months when we launched NBank, a digital banking platform very similar to UbiGo of Union Bank. It took us 4 months to get 1.5 million customers. So that shift of the new generation, the smartphone penetration, the internet penetration, the data penetration, the cost affordability of data, all these play a very significant role in the growth of digital banking. COVID, I would say, played a very important role in accelerating the process of digitization. Today, using e-commerce, using different fintech solutions like online insurance, remittance, buying your products online, having micro lending, all of these features are key features of digital bank, which is our vision that we want UbiGo to be the leader in launching it for the youth in this country.
In fact, didn't your Nepali bank, Nabil Bank, launch its eKYC during COVID?
Absolutely. We launched our digital bank in November of 2022, and it was the first digital bank in South Asia. So a lot of learnings were coming in from there anyways. So when we have our Union Bank in Sri Lanka, those best practices also come over here. The learnings also come from here. What has worked, what has not worked. Today's youth all across the geographies think very similar. So, we were able to also bring in a lot of these new features, new products, new services through UbiGo. So, a lot of things in store for UbiGo. Today's marks obviously one very innovative milestone for UbiGo. Just imagine, the youth, they want to utilize their time fast. Now they've got the entire bank on their palm.
Dilshan, you have a fantastic opportunity in front of you. I'm sure you've kind of looked at the size, the scale, what it can be for Union Bank, not just in the next 6 months when hopefully digital adoption will see an increase because of your ability to now do eKYC so fast. But what's the medium term to long term opportunity like for Union Bank to become a truly neobank type of bank, an online bank virtually?
So we are a small conventional bank, but we have huge ambitions on the digital front. So the fact that you have a small conventional presence now doesn't hold us back in terms of really reaching out to achieve our expectations on the digital front. So like I said earlier, we are looking at 15-20% market share.
Versus your assets
conventional
in the
business would be
sector
just 1%.
Yes.
So, and that's also going to grow very fast, as you can see. You have the retail banking app, which is UbiGo, which is for our individuals and the youth. But on top of that, we also have our business proposition, which is called BizDirect. Right, so that's something that will help us really penetrate the SME segment. So we have 90% of the businesses in Sri Lanka are SMEs, and these are companies that have not used electronic banking as much as the big corporates who have been in the past working with the big banks, with their cash management products and well-known products that are brands in the market. So this is an opportunity for us actually to go to them and support them to link up their supply chain, their distributors, their retailers in one ecosystem. And that's what BizDirect also offers them. So in the last year, we've done several workshops around the country offering that proposition as well. So together, these two are a very unique offering that we can provide to all our customers, both businesses and individuals alike.
Yeah, just to add quickly to Dilshan, see, sometimes small is beautiful. When you have a smaller setup, your cost structures and your organizations can be far more effective and efficient, right? And if you are using digitization within your organization to improve your overall processes and bringing your costs down, we can immediately use products like BizDirect to provide a much more attractive proposition to the customers. They don't have to run around in 100 different branches. through Union Bank's boutique, bespoke, concierge-based service proposition, you're able to really, really get the best product timely and at the most affordable prices. And we're always continuously within the bank wanting to come up with products that are the first, products that are tried and tested in our CG Corp Global's other markets, and bring the best practices here to Sri Lanka. So we've got a lot of products and features coming. We're now going to keep it as a suspense, but we're very excited about this.
Dilshan, the sort of transformation that Nirvana is talking about, it's not a simple launching of an app that makes services accessible. It's important, but you have to get the ecosystem, you have to get the teams aligned, right? How is that process going? Are your teams, your processors, your sort of culture transformed in the same way that an app would sort of help transform the banking experience?
So Shamindra, it's you have to ensure that the enabling environment is there.
Sure.
And the other important aspect is that you have to get your staff to adopt it. Your staff have to be the biggest promoters of the app. So that's something that we really working on. We have digital champions in each branch.
Okay.
And each branch would have one staff member basically focused and extremely competent, proficient and certified on the retail app as well as the corporate app that we have. And then they are the people who ensure that we follow it through across all our staff. So staff adoption is key to getting customers to start using it. Whilst at the same time, through the initiatives that we have, looking at digitalizing all the processes, the back officers, the systems, all that has to also happen in parallel. So that's the journey that we are in. So it's very exciting because you've got to start rethinking your conventional ways of doing business completely to be able to cater to the digital way of doing things. So there is no point in someone coming and applying for a e-statement by filling a form, right? The whole thing has to happen digitally. So that whole infrastructure has to be done in parallel. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Even the whole process of applying for a loan, personal loans and credit cards would be 80% of the loans that we do in a bank. So starting from those, ensuring that that whole ecosystem is digitalized. And the whole approval process, the verification process, all that needs to be done in parallel. So there's a lot of learnings that we can take on board from Nabil Bank's experience, and that's something that we are engaging with them quite regularly in terms of ensuring that we onboard all of those points so that we get the real value that is to come through.
Manisha, Union Bank, UB Go, its genesis wasn't in isolation. It was part of that big picture, big ecosystem. When you were leading this project, what do you think were the big challenges that you had that required overcoming? And this is assuming the CEO, Dilshan, was helping create the culture, the process, the vision, the expectations, right? But as person driving this project, what were the challenges you had to overcome?
There's a very good saying, Shamindra, that be the change that you wish to be. In that sense, I think that is the biggest obstacle that I have had in this journey. Because when it comes to digital, it's a mindset change. It's a behavioral change.
Sure.
It's an attitude change. So basically, these are all emotions within a person. And the biggest challenge that we have is getting people to adapt. So we have put in place a few actions and monitoring mechanisms so that firstly we get our staff to adapt. And now we have, with this launch of the VKYC, we are putting in place a strategy to get our existing customers and potential new customers on board. Second is, of course, in any bank, they have various systems. So integrating all these systems together to deliver something of a future-ready app, like what we are now focusing on, that is a challenge also. But we have a really superb team within Union Bank, from IT to operations to my team, even the supporting teams who have been working endlessly to make sure that we meet deadlines and we, deliver on our promise to be a super app in the next 3 years. That is our objective, that is our vision. It's just one single vision, to be there, to be the best. And now we are overcoming both of these challenges. And thirdly is, of course, technology changes every single day. Every moment is changing. So taking in the best learnings from the industry, from the world, and incorporating it and being the first to incorporate it and deliver value to the customer, that itself is a challenge, because there is a cost involved. We have to make sure that the shareholders get their returns, and that this is not going to be adding another burden on it. So all of these things we take into account when we are going on this journey.
You mentioned there's super app. You mean a dominant app?
So if you look at the industry today, in Sri Lanka especially, most financial institutes have two apps. One is a banking app with certain features which are limited, and then you have a wallet. Union Bank believes that for customer convenience, the user experience matters a lot. So you should not be having two apps to do two different types of transactions, right? You should have just one app, which is a super app.
So in simple terms, you do your banking transactions, right? You pay your bills, you get your credit card done, payments done, pay your utility bills, you do your transfers, all that. On top of that, you're also able to book your air tickets and make the payment for your air tickets. You can pay your merchants. You can get your food delivered to you and pay Uber. So that's the whole integrated solution that a super app has. So effectively, it's just one touch point, and you do your entire lifestyle revolves around that. It's your ecosystem.
Exactly.
Nirvana, I suppose, talk to us about the regulatory systems or the vision of the regulators that is required for organizations like banks to be able to untap the underlying potential in an economy, in inefficiencies, which is what digitization, brings to you, right? It brings efficiencies at large scale. What was your experience in other markets where you've tried to do this? And can you maybe, together with Dilshan, can you tell us about how the experience has been in Sri Lanka?
We have seen out of our own experience that the digital banking market is at a very, very nascent stage in Sri Lanka. It's far more evolved in a country like Nepal. And that is because of some regulatory policies changing, which just accelerated at the right time, the use of wallets, for example. There are more wallet users than bank account holders in Nepal. Today, the advantage you have in Sri Lanka is, I think, 85% plus people are banked over here already. So how do you get the already existing customer to provide a larger portfolio of services for them to be conveniently, any use of money, any use of capital, any use of investment, how do you use digital tools to make it convenient for them by a simple smartphone? Simple. Definitely, also given the challenges in the economy in the last couple of years in Sri Lanka, it's pretty obvious for any regulator to be overly cautious. With strong focus within the central bank on digitization, on policies to form for digital banks. Like we have within our bank, we have our board directors who have specialization and focus on the digital banking in Sri Lanka. And again, most of our directors in our board are so gung-ho about our strategy for the digital banking in Sri Lanka and excited, and they're all adding value. But I think in Sri Lanka's policy, tools that we are launching today, eKYC, video KYC, the entire documentation already being digitized, the know your customers already being digitized. Some of the biggest challenges in banking sector is AML, money laundering, etc. So with transparency using digital banking tools, I think the government is realizing how beneficial it is that these documents and interfaces are already going to be digitized. So we are going to be removing a lot of layer and costs of that process. Otherwise people had to come to the bank, submit their passport copy, resident copy, driving license, fill in a form, saving, then again digitizing it, that's saving. Now it's just in the palm of your thing. The tools are already there. In short, I think the Sri Lankan regulators are definitely looking at what's going around in the region. Forget about the world. What are the best practices? And I think are making the correct decisions very cautiously of allowing digital banks with the fundamentals in place, who have the right technology in place, who have the right customer base in place, and giving them the leeway to launch these products.
If I may just add
sure,
to
please.
what Nirvana said, for sure, I think the present government, right, even in their manifesto, made it very clear that digitalization is a way forward, right? They're talking about government payments becoming digitalized, people payments becoming digitalized, but there are certain areas that need to be focused on to make that happen. One is the digital ID, right? So you all know about India's Aadhaar, and what it did to India in terms of getting people the identification process. So that's something that is very important. That's one thing that needs to get done. Second is QR-based payments. Now that's another thing. I think countries like Nepal, India have gone far ahead, because countries like us, where affordability is an issue, QR is the most sensible and low-cost model to actually effect payments. So that's another huge area. And then, of course, contactless for certain areas. So imagine you go into one of our highways and you just press a card and you get in. So it can be a hybrid. It doesn't have to be one or the other. These initiatives have to be really pushed through. And there is no reason why we cannot ensure 70-80% of our transactions in the country can be digitalized. And we are a small country, and that's possible. Even the tax system has a function to play, right? So there are people, for example, I play badminton with my coach, and he insists that I pay him in cash, because he's worried that he'll have to start paying tax beyond a certain threshold. From a government's point of view, the enabling environment, I think the regulator is definitely, very much sold on this. I think the government is also very keen on it. It's a lot of these policy actions also need to come together, and it will happen.
But also economics, it is a very important part. The economics, for example, when an individual goes to electricity authority to pay your monthly electricity bill or water or any basic services, right? Your average cost to the government for putting the people, for the documentation, for the money that will come into the system and get processed, the per transaction cost is about 42 cents.
And then this is millions of transactions every month.
Multiply that, and now just compare it economics to having digital intervention over there. So I think, like Dilshan was saying, it's the correct policy to have in your manifesto. It's inevitable. So digitization in the country and providing digital services after that or in parallel are two different things. Like today, okay, I'm wearing a ring. This is in Nepal. I don't even need to put my phone out.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Wave it to the...
It's a tap and pay.
Tap and pay, yeah.
Forget about taking out your phone. I mean, the watches have been there for a long time. These tools and technology exist. It's just a plug and play. But why the plug and play is not happening, and it's nothing to do with the regulatory thing. It's like Manisha and Dilshan talking about, we have to get the people, we can't make them start sprinting before they start walking. So it's going to be a nice journey. But the beauty is that you've got, at least from our perspective, a company that's experimenting and tried and tested products everywhere else, which will keep bringing these products and services to Sri Lanka.
So even from a bank's perspective, you can run your organization much more efficiently, if you actually digitalize the entire process. So that's the real value that comes through. And I think it's proven that economies can grow their GDP by 1 to 2% more by digitalizing their business or their operations and the payments platforms. And that it also does a lot for corruption. Because you're making sure that payments go directly to the intended beneficiary without intermediaries. So there's huge, value that can come all around.
With UB Go, Dilshan, I mean, you said you want to eventually get to 15% market share on digitalized banking, right? What are the other KPIs that you have to then hit to be able to get that number? I mean, you're just not looking at a number in isolation and saying we're going to do that, right? There is a roadmap. What are those steps that you need to take to be able to hit that, you think?
So several things. Actually, an app or even our BizDirect proposition, right, is just one proposition. So you have to converge with others. Right. It's an interlinked market. So you need to find other partners who can actually come on board with value. We are not going to develop everything. So with that, you bring more value onto the table. The ecosystem becomes superior. And then as a result of that, ultimately it's about customer adoption. It's about getting people to trust you to use this system and see how much more efficient it is to get things done versus the conventional alternative, to travel from place to place and get something done. There'll be lots of time wasted in that process. So it's ultimately about adoption. And that's why it's so important for Union Bank to carve itself as an excellent digital proposition. Then people would want to come to you because you've got your act together. So that's really the differentiating factor for us.
And young people aren't like us here at the table. What's your challenge here, Manisha? Young people are known to be impatient. Their attention is very limited. They want everything to work on a smartphone seamlessly.
Yes.
Are these an indication of the kinds of challenges that you will face from a technology point of view also in creating the adoption?
So basically, not only technology from a technology point of view, but also from a regulatory point of view. Because as you said, a young guy is not going to wait for 10 minutes to do a certain transaction. They want it done in maybe 30 seconds, maximum 1 minute, that's it. While we have certain features which can cater to less than a minute. I mean, most of the transactions, we just take less than a minute to conclude. But there are certain processes because, we have to adhere to certain guidelines and regulations where there are certain mandatory requirements that has to go through. So those take a little bit longer time. Overcoming these will be a learning process for both the banks as well as the regulators. And one thing that I have firmly believed and one thing that I have experienced is if you make your case right, the regulators are going to support you, right? I have seen that when we launched our agency banking, we were the first bank in Sri Lanka to properly put out an agency banking model which conforms to the theoretical, conceptual, and technological aspect of agency banking. So like that, you can actually get the regulator to support you. And when they see this value adding to the economy as well, they're definitely going to change their regulations and support you. I'm optimistic, definitely, that, we will be able to cater to the young generation with the new features that we are bringing in the next few months as well. It's a future-ready app that we have already launched. Some features we hope will actually keep the youngsters and the millennials and the Gen Zs talking about Union Bank as time comes in. So this is the vision that we had to do. But of course, it's a challenge because, there are so many things that are out there, and making your mark in a market where you're not well known, a market where the old thinking is still very dominant, those are challenges we have to overcome. With the vision and the actions that we have decided to take into account during this year and the coming years, I'm 100% sure that we can get to where we want to be.
Shamindra, I'll give you, just to add on to Manisha, right? There's a new Netflix show called Adolescence. I won't talk more about the show. I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but there's one scene where the detective's 13-year-old boy, he's cracking a case on murder, etc., right? And the 13-year-old boy tells his father that I think you're looking at the case completely wrong. So he asks him a question. He's saying, do you ever send heart emojis to mom? He's like, yeah, of course. He's like, what color is the heart? He's like, red. Then the 13-year-old kid goes, there's a blue heart, white heart, green heart, and a purple heart. Like, what? What does that mean? And he keeps talking about all of that. That entire show is based on one emoji, which one of the friends sends, which has got 12 different meanings. That's the kind of a target market we have to understand. What is it do they like? Today, the entire gaming market is bigger than your entire movie, music, everything combined. Today, Spotify is bigger than Universal and Sony combined. Our biggest challenge to us as a bank is continuously reinventing and coming up with products that is gonna make the lives of not only the next generation, but everyone in general easier. We have to know what works at a particular age group, what will work for the millennials, what will work for the Gen Z, but we wanted to be their partner wherever any use of capital or money goes out. They know it's UBGO. UB's got the products and services sorted out.
On that note, Nirvana, I think that's a fantastic note to wrap the conversation up. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for such a vibrant conversation about what's possible in the future.